Hello and welcome back to my RC channel. I'm AndyRC and today I'm going to be taking a look at the King Kong 110 GT. Now, this one is a subscriber request. You might have seen my video of the King Kong 95 GT and I got a lot of requests to check this one out from that video, so this is it. Now, the appeal with this one for me is the fact that it comes with these two 840 tri-blade props, which seem to be the same as the ones that came with the full-speed Leader 120. And you may have seen on the channel that it has a huge amount of power. Now, unlike the Leader 120, this does not have an on-screen display or a buzzer. So you might be thinking, well, why shouldn't I just get the Leader instead? And the answer is, well, on paper, the 110 GT weighs just 86 grams with a battery, whereas the Leader 120 weighs 103 grams with its battery. So that is a considerable difference at this size. The 110 GT also has 1105 sized motors against the Leader's 1104 motors, and it also has a higher kV of 8,500 kV against the 7,500 kV of the Leader 120. Now, the 110 GT also comes with a receiver, whereas the full speed is a plug and fly. So with them both being the same price, it seems that power-wise, on paper, the 110 GT should have the edge, but obviously we'll take a look at that a bit later. Anyways, let's also take a look at some of the other specs. So underneath, we have a thick rubber band holding in the battery, which is a 350 milliamp 2S35C battery. Now, this is interesting. You can see on the back here that the battery connector to the quadcopter is a 2S balance port instead of a JST connector. And the reason that they have done this is to try and stop people using a 3-cell battery with it. Now, I've had the opportunity to talk to a few designers of these micros who tell me that a 3S battery will work with the 10 amp ESCs on these models. However, with really high kV motors, they say that something will eventually burn out, which I guess is fair enough. But the problem with using a balance port to rectify that means that the cables are very thin, which worries me when it comes to the amount of amps this system is going to be drawing, even on a 2S. So I will have to see if that causes a problem later on in the video. So underneath the battery is King Kong's favourite location for the receiver. I don't know why they do this, but this is the FreeSky XM version that I've got here, so I'm going to be binding it to my Tyrannus. Again, I think they put the receiver on this sticky pad so that you can pull it out to bind to it, which could be why they also leave the backing on the other side as well, so that you can then stick it down in place once it is bound. But yeah, I'm probably going to eventually move it to inside the canopy so I can put the antenna out of the top. Now, in order for me to show you the rest of the components, I'm going to need to take the top off, and it's the same as with the 95 GT, really. I would have liked to have seen at least a hole in the side of the plastic to access the USB port, because I can't change anything in Betaflight from here. Anyway, let me take the top off by removing these Phillips nylon screws here to show you what's inside. So from here, I think everything is pretty much the same as the 95 GT. We have the tiny CMOS camera at the front here, which has its angle fixed. I think you would have to do some modding to change that, but again, I think the angle they have chosen here is going to be nice for flying freestyle, which is what I prefer anyway, so I'm going to leave it as it is. Then at the bottom we have the 10 amp B Al Hali S ESCs. Now this model has come flashed with Betaflight 3.01, so D-Shot isn't listed as an option in Betaflight, and it has got multi-shot selected out of the box, so I'm going to be using that. I can never tell the difference between D-Shot and multi-shot anyway, but there you go. Then we have a connector on the side which you can actually use for a PWM receiver. In fact, they have provided that cable to do so, but I can't imagine finding a PWM receiver small enough to fit in this canopy anyway, so it's probably best off to use a micro receiver instead, I think. So then at the back we have the PWM motor connections from the ESC board that are connected directly with standoffs, and you will notice that there are no pads for a buzzer whatsoever. Now I do believe that if you mess around with different firmware and move the resources around, you can set up PWM number 6 as a buzzer, I think, but that will only work as a lost model arm, as there's no VBAT value coming through to the flight controller, if I remember rightly. And I think not having a VBAT or a buzzer are the two things that this copter really could do with. Anyways, moving on to the VTX, and it's the 16 channel 25 milliwatt VTX as before with the 95 GT, etc. And you are given a little chart with some LED colours on there which show you which frequency that the VTX has landed on, and the colours flash, etc. And I'm not too fond of this system because you have to keep the chart with you at all times, but they do provide a sticky back version, so I guess you could stick it to your goggles or whatever. So to change the channel, it's a single press of the button on the top, and then we also have this sleeve dipole antenna coming out of the back as well. So some of the things that I have changed in Betaflight are just my personal preference. So I have changed the Super 8 2.8, and I've also changed the channel map to TAER for the Tyrannus, and I've also adjusted the PIDs slightly too because the stock ones look a little bit low to me, so I will post those over the FPV flight if I get a nice tune out of it. Oh, I should mention as well that I put in the command set small underscore angle equals 180 into the CLI in Betaflight, and I've started doing this for all of the models that I have without buzzers because it will allow the quadcopter to arm no matter what angle it's at. So if I lose it in the grass or whatever, I should be able to hear it rustling about when I arm it for just a second. And yeah, if you do that for too long though, something will burn out, so yeah, you need to be careful doing that, but it's the only other option I can see with models that don't have a buzzer. And of course you can go into B Al Hali suite as well and change the beacon to like just a couple of minutes or something, and then the ESCs will make a noise as well. Oh, I can't wait until B Al Hali allows us to send beeps through the motors, and that is going to be so much easier for these models that don't have a buzzer. Anyways, other than that, of course, you get your nice King Kong lunchbox with a spare canopy and a spare set of props. Again, I prefer to go for the translucent prop as they seem to be more flexible and less prone to snapping than these white props that they have provided. Now you are given the M2 screws as well to screw in the props, of course, but you will need a hex driver to put them in, and you are given some spare bands for the battery as well, although I can't see these thick bands are snapping, but there you go. We also are given a prop remover and a USB micro 2 lead to program Betaflight as well. There's also a manual which shows you the modes already set up in Betaflight and how to flash it, etc. And we also have the FreeSky manual as well for the XM receiver. Okay, let's go for a takeoff with this one. There's plenty of power already, I can see. I put loads of power on to get it out of the grass. Very quiet. Let's check out the punch. Yeah, as expected, it's a rocket. A quiet rocket as well. Okay, let's try acro. Oh, this is nice. I think it doesn't quite have the same punch as the Leader 120, you know, but it'd be difficult to say. It's hard because I reviewed that one first. Yeah, it's still bonkers. It really is. It's crazy power. So I think it'd be hard to say which one was the quickest. Hopefully I won't have any issues with this one. I've got the idle fairly high and I'm not expecting any brownouts because we have less stuff to power. The only thing that kind of upsets me about this one is the lack of a buzzer, and also no way of adding a buzzer as well. It's not just that, so you get a lot of these models that don't come with a buzzer, but then you can add one. Not this one. It's using King Kong's own flight controller, and it doesn't have a place for a buzzer as far as I can see. It flies so nice though. Nice loop. Who says you can't do loops with quadcopters? Well, people call them power loops, don't they? Come along and back up and around. Looks like a loop to me. Oh, these are just so nice to fly. Yeah, so one of the things that I do now with models that don't have buzzers is I put that command in, set small angle equals 180, and then if you do lose it, you can sort of walk around and arm and disarm it, and you can sort of hear it rustling away. Other than that, it's wait to see if the ESC beacon is going off. Oh, it's such a nice model. It's so nice. I love this size model with these props, which is why I persevered so much with the Leader 120, because I mean, you know, they fly like a 5-inch. You can push them around. They've got endless amounts of power, and it's just so much fun to fly. Of course, with me flying here line of sight now, I don't know how much battery I've got, so you're gonna have to set a timer, which I haven't done. I should have done. Set it for, I don't know, 3 minutes. I'm having a lot of fun doing these line of sight power loops. Something else I've discovered recently, as you might be able to tell, in trying to do some more of the maneuvers that I do FPV line of sight and vice versa, because you get a different perspective of it. But this is flying really nice. I love the power, I love how quiet it is. It's not annoying anyone. And there goes the battery. So, yeah, maybe about 3.5 minute flight time, flying around like an idiot. But yeah, let's get and do some FPV with it. So here is some DVR footage, and I notice a problem straight away. At about, I would say, maybe 85% throttle, the video was cutting out. So yeah, it's browning out, and I immediately thought about that connector. But actually, funnily enough, it wasn't that was the issue. It was just the battery. 35C, it's just not quite enough for this model. Yeah, just as I suspected with the Leader 120, these props draw a huge amount of amps, and the 35C battery that they provide with it just isn't enough. I was having fun with it though, because you can kind of control when the video cuts out with the throttle, so it's a bit stupid really, but what I would do is I would go on full throttle, let the video cut out, and then do a maneuver and see if I could guess where it was by the end of the maneuver. But anyways, yeah, I gave up on that, and eventually I just started flying it at around 75% throttle, and the video didn't cut out. But what I do in a minute is I just put a 80C battery on it, and it fixed that problem. So that's all you have to do with this one. I used the Ishin battery that came with the Aurora series, so is it like 450 milliamp 80C, still using the balance connector, but I guess, you know, you could change that out to an XT30 anyways, you know, that'd be my #1 mod. Look at that, just playing with the video cutting out, but it really does completely cut out, but it always came back, so you know, that was fine to just sort of play around with there. Other than that, yeah, I think the camera quality is pretty good. The flight characteristics are extremely similar to the Leader 120. I couldn't say which was quicker because it's really difficult to tell. All I will say is that they definitely both compare to each other, and technically on paper, with the 110 GT being lighter, then it should be technically quicker, but I couldn't notice that. Anyways, I'll overlay the PIDs here that I used, and yeah, as the flight went on, as the battery depleted, the camera cut out even more. So yeah, that's probably going to start annoying you. So what I'm going to do is leave you with some flying on the higher C battery, and it flew fine like that. And I'd recommend that you just get an upgraded battery. That's all you need for this one. I don't know why they are supplying these inadequate batteries with these models lately, but as I've mentioned in my other videos, they should just leave us to buy our own battery and, you know, reduce the price a little bit, because we're going to be using our own batteries anyways. But yes, I'll leave a link in the description if you wish to get one, and like I said, I'll leave you with some flying as always. Thanks so much for watching. Please continue to subscribe. Cheers.
Step on the land, I've got your hand, and now we're way down, fade out low. Was it your plan? Can't understand. I love the air you bring, everything. Under the sun, a fire is burning. You tell me to hold on tight. I wish that we could stay here forever. I wanna remember. Oh, the sight of you brings the fight in me, makes me wanna move. Fingers down your spine, looking in my eyes, feel your hands on mine. Tonight we're freer than ever. I wanna remember. Oh, we run every endeavor. I wanna remember. Step on the